Positive rotation.
Welcome to Roll Call, a 126th Air Refueling Wing podcast of the Illinois Air National Guard at Scott Air Force Base.
Ignition.
I'm your host, Master Sergeant Brian Ellison. The Roll Call podcast focused on people, mission, and community.
You guys have a nice flight. We'll see you back here.
Our guest this week is the acting commander of the 126th Operations Group, Lieutenant Colonel Jason Knab. This one, my friend, is a two-parter. We had so much fun talking. We kind of lost track of time, so we have to split it up. This one, the next one will come out in 2 weeks. Female pilots are about to get more comfortable in the cockpit. That's coming up on Around the Air Force. And, I got to get my Cardinals hat on for this. I almost forgot. I almost forgot to put this in the podcast. There are free Cardinal tickets out there. It's all part of the National Guard Bureau teaming up with the Total Force Recruiting Service. Also teaming up with the St. Louis Cardinals for the Salute to Service event over Labor Day weekend, the 1st through the 3rd of September. If you're a Cardinals fan, or if you're just a baseball fan, I salute you. If you've been around the stadium, you've probably seen the A&G stage located in Ballpark Village, as well as advertisements on the field. You'll see them, they have spray painted, if that's what it is, the A&G logo, onto the pitcher's mound during certain games. And then, they rotate out advertisers, and then you'll see it up behind the home plate as well. So as part of the Salute to Service, our members have an incredible opportunity to watch the Cardinals game for free as they take on the Pirates on September 2nd and 3rd. The Cardinals have supplied us with tickets for Saturday's game and Sunday's game. Right now, it's for members only. If you'd like to attend either game, it is requested all service members attend the game in OCPs. Parking for both games will be at the expense of the member. There are a few good spots that I'll tell you. How about Pine Street East and West? Good one. And it's called the Shoe Factory lot. That is a good one. As well. Now, to get these tickets, you're probably saying, all right, tell me how to get to these tickets. All right, I'll tell you how to get these tickets. Reach out to Master Sergeant Rich Olson. His email is richard.olson.6@us.af.mil. Tell him what game you want to go to and what email. Use your ballpark app and tell him the MLB ballpark app. That's how you basically getting tickets now. Tell him the email that you use for your MLB ballpark app, and he will transfer them to you. The Illinois Armed Forces Free Legal Counsel, IL-AFLAN, provides civil legal services across Illinois. It is a network of more than 10 legal aid organizations and law school clinics. You can call 855-452-3526 to speak to an attorney. If you are a veteran, service member, National Guard, reservist, spouse, or dependent in need of legal action, I'll put a link in the description to that phone number and more about the Illinois Armed Forces Free Legal Counsel. That is IL-AFLAN.
Hi, I'm Mike Richmond of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, with information on an important free resource for veterans, the VA Health and Benefits app. The tool is like a one-stop shop for veterans. It allows them to view or cancel VA medical appointments, send and receive messages from healthcare providers, and download VA benefit letters to provide veteran status or disability payments. Veterans can also manage existing VA claims, find the closest VA medical centers, and get quick access to the VA crisis line. You can download the Health and Benefits app on your iPhone or at the Google App Store, or wherever you normally get your mobile apps. If you already use this app, please share your feedback on your phone's app store. That's the VA Health and Benefits mobile app. I'm Mike Richmond.
We welcome to the podcast the former commander of the 906th Air Refueling Squadron and now the acting 126th Operations Group Commander, Lieutenant Colonel, or should I say Colonel Select Jason Knab. Congratulations on the selection, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
So how long are you going to stick around? You going to join the National Guard and become the Ops Group Commander?
That is the question that I get asked every day by numerous people. God will get me in at the right place at the right time, and my family and I will make a decision that is best for us.
So great answer. You must have been coached by PA. So you were the 90. So who's the new commander of the 906th Air Refueling Squadron for folks that weren't there and didn't know?
So Lieutenant Colonel Eric Wolf. He was the DO for the last year. We pulled him in from MacDill. He was the chief XP down at MacDill at the time. Was on the command select list, and so we pulled him in to be the DO. And then after doing his time as the DO for a year, we moved him into being the commander. He was selected to be the commander.
So as you're on a command list, does that mean is that somebody that is that do you interview the next incoming commander, or does this 375th commander interview for that position? So
one of the cool things about the Total Force is that it's not just the 375th wing commander that will interview or select that person. It's both wing commanders.
Oh, okay.
But also part of the TFA is a lot of times they give a peek behind the curtain for the squadron commander to, give their inputs on the list that they see to make sure that we select the right person for that unit. Because let's be honest, it's not just a normal air refueling squadron you're going to.
Right.
This is a Total Force unit that encompasses 32 different AFSCs. A lot of different specialties, unlike a normal air refueling squadron that may be 21 air crew and then a couple admin. We've got maintenance. Eric has maintenance, comm, intel, air crew, so boom operators, pilots. They also have POL, all kinds of different maintenance specialties.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it is almost like a little mini wing in a lot of ways. So it is complex, it's unique, and it's amazing.
What is the squadron's role as it fits into the 126?
So part of the 126 is it's just like, I don't want to say it's like every other air refueling squadron, but it is. So they're part of the operations group ultimately, because the commander of the 906 is the squadron commander, just like in the 108th. So you have two air refueling squadrons that sit underneath the group. So the 126 Air Refueling Wing has operational direction for the 906 ARS. And that means that they don't own us administratively, but on day-to-day basis for training, for operations, for any kind of O-plan, it's all run by the 126. And we're fully embedded into the 126. Now, the only thing that's different is that Eric's...
You're getting used to that. Yeah.
So the 906 commander actually reports to about 4 different group commanders. So
holy cow.
You've got the ops group commander because you're working for that individual directly.
Right.
You've got the MSG because you have people working for the MSG.
Oh, I never thought about that.
MXG, so the maintenance group commander, because 90 of the 141 personnel work for the maintenance group commander. And then I have my administrative group commander. So the 906 commander will report to what is Colonel Livy right now, who is the 375th ops group commander for all administrative actions and things that are awards, decks, OPBs, EPBs, and things like that.
Wow. So you talk about total force. What encompasses total force? I don't think a lot of people understand that the 906, as you've been saying, they're a full-time force. They're PCSing, they're ETSing, they're moving around. They may only stay a couple a year or in a couple of years in the same spot. But what is total force?
So it's funny, when I showed up at about 8 years ago, I showed up at Pease Air National Guard Base. It was one of my assignments.
Oh, really?
So I was very fortunate to be part of Total Force early in my career. It's no different than any member that comes here to the 126 for their first career. A lot of active duty folks, they don't understand the Total Force. They don't know that there is Guard, Reserve, that there's full-timers, part-timers. There's people that are architects or airline pilots or painters, doctors that are outside that come in over the weekend or just part-time to serve their country. That is one of the things that really is kind of a slap in the face initially, because you're like, I didn't even know this existed.
Really?
Because when I joined the military back in the day, I didn't know that it was National Guard. I'd heard about it, but I didn't know what it was.
Really?
In Ohio, there's Reserve and National Guard all over the place, like F-16 units. They got C-17s, C-5s. All I knew is I wanted to serve my country. And so active duty was the way that I went, because that was the way that all of my relatives went, and that's the way that I went.
Yeah. Well, how did you go? Did you go to ROTC or did you go to the academy?
So I was ROTC. I originally went to Ohio State thinking, hey, I'm going to work a job. I'm going to get my pilot's license. I'm going to fly for Delta because that was my path. I was in Cincinnati at the time. Delta was a huge hub back in the day. Both my neighbors on either side were Delta pilots.
Oh, wow.
And so my dad also flew. And I was, so for me, I just wanted to find any path I could to fly big or sleek, small, fast aircraft. That's what I wanted. So naturally, when I got to Ohio State,
Ohio State, right? Isn't that
Ohio State
that's
University.
How you say it?
I get corrected all the time. It is the Ohio State University.
Why? Okay.
Go Buckeyes.
Yeah.
For me, ROTC was the right route. I wanted the college experience. I wanted to go to the Ohio State University, really any flying college. I applied to a lot of different colleges out of high school, but I knew I wanted to fly. I knew I wanted to lead in some aspect, and the military was a natural progression to get me there. It was funny, the day that I told my dad that I was going into the military, I went to a new barber, big mistake. And I was trying to look good because I was going to let my parents know that I was going to join the military.
Oh, nice.
They were not in the military, but we had relatives that were. My grandpa served in World War II. My great-great-grandfather served in the Spanish-American War. Like, there's a lot of history. So I go and I asked them a little off the sides, a little off the top. The guy made me look like I was joining the Marines. So it was a high and tight. I show up. My dad looks at me from across the restaurant as he enters and goes, "What did you do?"
Oh,
and he's
no.
like, "Did you join the Marines? What is?" And I'm like, "Well, no, but I did join the Air Force ROTC." And he's like, "Okay, that sounds good. You're gonna go fly jets, right?" I'm like, "Well, we'll see. I have to compete like every other ROTC student. I had a lot of flight time going into it, growing
really?
up around aviation, but ROTC was the right place for me."
So you can't go into ROTC and say I want to be a pilot. This is the track that I want to be on. I guess it's like ROTC in the Army, where I guess they kind of slot you in your grade and you get first choice if you're in the right spot.
Well, there's so many different career fields, right? So
Right.
pilots make up somewhere between 3 to 6% of the Air Force.
Is that right?
It's very small.
Wow.
So there is a selection process. I think out of my class, I think there was 15 to 16 people that applied, and about 6 of us got pilot slots.
Wow.
So there's a lot of factors that go into it. Do you have previous experience? What were your grades? What is your commander's ranking? So just like in the Air Force, there's a whole calculus that goes into if you get selected. That doesn't mean that because you didn't get it right at ROTC, you're not going to become a pilot if that's what you want.
Oh, I see.
I have friends that became navigators, acquisition officers, and things like that ended up applying later on, followed their dream, and then became a pilot. Some of them stayed where they are, and they grew and they bloomed where they were planted and did fantastic things in their career fields also.
We were talking about the National Guard and the Guard. I don't know why I knew about when I joined the Army, I knew about the Guard only because they went to our basic training. So we were Guard I was full-time. We were full-time and Guard. The only difference is they got to go home between basic training and their tech school, or what we call AIT.
Sure.
They went home. We continued on with field artillery training, which was just like repeating basic training all over again because you have the same drill sergeants and all that, and they just, oh boy, it's a lot of fun. But so I was surprised to find out, this is naive of me, that there was full-time Guard people. That was a new one to me. I was like, oh, I just thought you guys shut down and it collected dust for a year.
Yeah, 110%. For me, it was going to pilot training. There was some Guard and Reserve in my class. And I met this really nice gentleman from Indiana, and he's like, well, I'm going to go fly F-16s. I'm like, that's funny, man.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean you're going to fly F-16s? He's like, well, this is my Guard unit. It's like, I didn't know that existed.
Really?
I had no clue. So that was my first interaction, not even in ROTC. I really didn't know a lot about the Guard and Reserve. But then in pilot training, I met a lot of very incredible people that were part of it. And that was news to me. And so we're all competing, it's cutthroat competition to see, are you going fighters or bombers? Are you going to go to heavy aircraft or reconnaissance aircraft? And these folks, although if you go to a fighter, you get a place in the top 50% of your class. So there is, you have to meet a certain mark. but they knew where they were going right out of the bat.
That's interesting.
That's really special. It's a neat way of going about your career.
How does the 126th help the 906th Airmen in the full-time Air Force in their career? Because it seems like they can teach each other something.
Oh, 110%. The total force is the key to success of this military. Plain and simple. Without the total force, the majority, especially in the tankers, take the tankers for an example. The majority of KC-135 aircraft are in the Guard and Reserve. So the way that we interact.
Oh, how many percent?
It's about 2/3 of the KC-135s. It's a big percentage.
Wow.
So when you look at that, we've got to we have to be able to build strong partnerships and relationships with our Guard and Reserve counterparts, because that's how we're going to fight if we have to go to another real big conflict. You cannot just go alone with an active duty force and be successful. You have to have that relationship that you build. So members that come to the 906 are getting that training. Like they're walking into somebody else's home. Because let's face it, a Guard unit or reserve is a home.
Yeah.
And you're walking into it. It's not like your 3-year tour somewhere else, although your squadron will always be your home. Mm-hmm. But you're walking into a place where people have been there for 20, 30 years. And you just need to realize that. So you get that perspective. They understand the Guard and Reserve. It's not this anomaly that just exists out there. Right. And you understand they're just like you and me. They signed up to serve their country and to preserve freedom. And that's important to realize. We're all here doing the same thing. Although that person may be doing something off, somewhere else, a majority of the time as a primary job, when they're here wearing this uniform, they're just like you and me, like myself in active duty. Right. And it's no different.
That is, it almost reminds me of like moving to a new school.
Yeah.
People have been there for years, and you're like, you got to kind of figure out the territory and the lay of the land. We
were just talking about that. Military kids, Guard, Reserve, active duty, doesn't matter what it is, are very resilient, right? Mm-hmm. They may have moved around, maybe not as much in the Guard when you're in one spot, but some Guardsmen or reservists move around a lot in their career too. Mm-hmm. But I consider my 2 girls very resilient because they've moved like 10 times in their life.
You're kidding.
And so when they go to a new school, it's almost like, I get new friends. I'm going to put them on my list of contacts, and we'll play online and we'll do things together remotely. But they've had the opportunity to build that resilience throughout their life. So moving is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's a way to build your resilience for future things that are coming along in your life.
So how many times have you moved just in your military career?
So including training, probably it's somewhere in the 11 to 15 times.
Holy cow.
So every time that I moved in the early part of my career, I was training for a new aircraft or requalling in the KC-135. I was in the T1. I taught pilot training for 4 years at Columbus Air Force Base. So after my first assignment at Robbins Air Force Base as a tanker pilot, after pilot training, I had to go to San Antonio to qualify at Pitt, which is pilot and instructor training. Okay. Became an instructor, went to pilot training. After that, I had to go back to Altus to requal as a KC-135 pilot. Okay. After that, I went to school.
So you had to do, that's a 6-month move to, how long is Altus? 6 months?
So Altus is somewhere between 3 to 4 months for requal.
Oh, okay.
My initial qual after pilot training was about 5 months.
Oh, wow.
I was part of the very first dual seat qual class in the KC-135 when they were deciding to make co-pilots sit in either seat. Oh. Instead of going a traditional route. So it was a little bit longer than the typical 4 months for your initial training.
So co-pilots were just co-pilots back in the old days?
All you had to do is raise the gear, talk on the radio, and run the checklist. It was fantastic. No, all kidding aside, it's so you were a co-pilot, you were attached to an aircraft commander that ran the show, and they were training you to be an aircraft commander.
Oh, right.
But what they decided was, why not sit them in the left seat sometimes, give them that experience. So when they go to become an aircraft commander, it's an easy flow into that seat. So all they have to focus on is making really good, safe decisions.
So you were a pilot in training in Columbus,
Mississippi.
Oh, Columbus, Mississippi. I was going to say, wow, you were close to home.
I wish it was in OHIO, but it was not. So Columbus, Mississippi. It's when I drove into that town, I was like, where am I? I was like, this is a swamp. Like, but it ended up being a fantastic location. We lived on base. We had our 2 girls there. There's something special about going to a pilot training base where you are completely engulfed in people of like mind, people that are in your career that are excited.
Right.
You know, they're energetic about what they're doing. We met a lot of really great people in the local community too, and made some really good lifelong friendships. So it ended up being a great location.
Mississippi, it seems like an interesting place. It has so much history. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's just it's a different, I guess it's an interesting place that I'd like to explore.
Yeah, there's lots of history. You say good or bad, you know, there's just history.
Right.
There's a ton of history, diverse history. And I wouldn't say we dove deeply into that history, but what we did do is try to get out and experience the area. No matter where we move, we do that.
Right.
We try to understand where that city or that culture was born from, and where everybody, you know, what are their beliefs. That's kind of the unique thing about being in the military and traveling around. You get that opportunity. Right. And I think that's really important because it makes you a more well-rounded person that understands that the way you think is not always the right way.
Right. And that's, you know, that we were talking about it before we came on the air, is I don't like traveling. I like moving to different locations because you get to experience, you get a deep dive into that culture, like living in Germany for 4 years or 2 years, or, you know, it's just more, what's the word? It's just more engrossing, I guess.
Yeah, it makes you a stronger person, I think, in the end. It really builds, I know I said resilience a lot, but that's not what it is. It's, it opens your aperture.
Yeah.
Right. To just that there's more out there than just the bubble that you grew up in. Right. I grew up all over the place, so my aperture was already wide when I joined the military. But like my wife, she grew up in Cincinnati her whole life. Wow. So she meets me and she's like, we're going to move every 3 years. And that was a big awakening. But she is rallied. She is my partner in crime when we're moving around and trying to find new things. We always try to find something special about each location. Right. If you don't, then you'll be miserable where you move.
And you've really attached to one place in particular, it sounds like.
You're talking about Alaska.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we love Alaska. We became residents when we were there. But my family loves outdoor sports. We're outdoor sports junkies.
Nice.
I'm big into any kind of sport or event that gets my heart racing. When it comes to, I do hang gliding. I've skydived. I just got both my little girls, so they're 12 years old, Megan and Madison. They just became certified open water scuba divers with me.
Are they twins?
They are twin girls.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so fraternal twins. They are different.
Yeah.
You know, Megan's got blue eyes and kind of curly hair. Well, also wavy hair. Right. And Madison is brown eyes and straight hair.
Oh, wow.
Two different personalities. They're fantastic.
So you taught them to scuba dive?
We did. So I went out to Swansea in Scuba World and ended up getting my certification, something I've always wanted to do. I'm like, I'm going to get scuba certified. I love the ocean, everything about it. So I got my certification. And then I was talking to the owner, Mike, and I was like, well, how old do you have to be? He's like, you need to, I think it was 12 years old is what he told me at the time.
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay, well, I've got 2 soon to be 12-year-olds. And so I took them down there and I redid the course with them online, made them do all the quizzes themselves, study, take the tests and the quizzes. And then they went and did the practical with Scuba World in the pool up at the McHenry Plex. And then we went down to, it's a quarry down near Paducah, Kentucky.
Oh, sure.
Near Metropolis, I think is where
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's where the first radio station I was ever on the air was in Metropolis. We
Superman's from there, right?
Superman is from there.
That's right. The big statue.
Yeah, the big statue.
We've got a picture in front of it. It's fantastic.
I've made my family stop at it. I've made everybody that I drive down, when we went to a training, I made everybody stop at the Superman statue.
Yeah.
So you guys scuba dived at a quarry down there?
We did. We're trying to plan a trip right now to go out to probably the Gulf in Florida or the Keys. I want to take them to where the water's warm. The problem with the quarry is, except for like about a month in the summer, it's pretty cold.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you get down below about 25 feet, you hit a thermocline, and it gets super cold. Well, my daughter, Megan, is like 75 pounds, right? There's nothing
really
to her.
Weight her down.
Well, so you have the tank, you have the vest. We stretched 2 wetsuits across her to get her, keep her warm. But she got about 25 feet down. She's like, no. It is way too cold. Let's go up. So I want to take them somewhere where they can really experience it. My one daughter, Madison, is unique because she wants to be a marine biologist.
Oh, that's cool.
So I really want to give her the opportunities to take that and run with it.
Right.
It may not be what she ends up doing in the future.
Sure.
But maybe it is. Maybe she becomes a world-renowned marine biologist someday. And I just hope I can give her those experiences to eventually do great things in that career field, hopefully.
Are there fish in that quarry?
There are. There's huge catfish.
Really?
And there's an albino catfish. It actually scared me one time. You take hot dogs down with you, right?
Oh, okay.
And you crumble them up, and then you'll flick them out, and the fish will come up and eat it. Well, those catfish are so big. We're talking like 3 feet long.
Oh my gosh.
You can flick a whole hot dog out there, and they'll just... They've got it. And they purr like cats.
Really?
They make these really unique sounds. But probably the most unique fish that's down there is the paddlefish.
Oh, sure. They got the long paddles on the nose, right?
Huge snout.
Yeah.
Big snout. And they're harder to find in the quarry.
Oh, really?
They like to go a little bit deeper and into the darker water, so they're not up near the surface. So you go down about 35 feet, and you'll start seeing them out in the middle of the quarry, which is very unique. But they'll scare you because there's not as much sunlight down there, so it's harder to see long distances.
Oh, man.
So they'll creep up on you and be like, whoa, paddlefish. So
we will hear more about the relationship between the Guard and the Air Force and where Colonel Knab sees the wing going. That's coming up in the next podcast.
Military families now have another financial option to assist with the cost of dependent care. The Department of Defense expanded eligibility for the Dependent Care Flexible Spending Account to allow service members to set aside up to $5,000 in pre-tax earnings for qualified expenses. Those expenses include child care for dependents under the age of 13, care for incapacitated family members, and other benefits that enable family members to look for work or attend school full-time. Enrollment for the new initiative will be active during the federal benefits open season from mid-November through mid-December. Airmen and Guardians have a new avenue for mental health referrals. The Brandon Act is being implemented across the Department of the Air Force. It's named after Navy Aviation Electrician's Mate 3rd Class Brandon Caserta, who died by suicide in 2018. The Act allows service members to request a referral by contacting their commander or supervisor in grade E6 or above. That invokes the Act and speeds up the process to get an appointment the same or next day. A referral can be requested for any reason, and service members can keep that information confidential. It's mandatory for commanders and supervisors to honor a Brandon Act request. Female aviators are getting a new flight suit. The new Advanced Aircrew Combat Uniform is being distributed to active duty women. It's a 2-piece flight suit that accounts for female hips, waist, and chest, making for a more comfortable fit. The first round of suits go out to 41 bases identified by the Air Force Uniform Office. Air Force Material Command bought 15,000 suits for issue. One of the organizers handling the new uniform issue says it's a huge deal because women typically wear flight suits made for men, and a more comfortable fit means it's easier to focus on your job. That's your look around the Air Force. I'm Technical Sergeant Vernon Young.
Here's something I didn't know. Department of Psychological Health can see spouses for counseling. Call and make an appointment today. Some things that you might want to talk to your DPH about might be the stresses of work, relationships, anxiety, depression, mindfulness. All those you can talk about and more with DPH. That's the Psychological Department of Health. Call for an appointment today, 618-363-1426. Location is the 4th floor of the hospital. Hours are 07 to 16:30, 4:30 p.m. For those who practice civilian time, and on drill weekends. You can find out more information about what's going on in the wing, like you can find out about legal services and whatnot through the 126th Military Family Readiness mailing list. I'll put their email in the description of this episode to get you hooked up with some great information. If you haven't seen our Facebook page or Instagram recently, go check it out. We have some cool photos from the wings refuel of the Thunderbirds. Also, check out our YouTube page for the 906th change of command from Colonel Knab to Colonel Wolf. You can find all of our links on Linktree. That's Linktr.ee/126. If you're watching on YouTube, you can take the podcast with you. You can listen to it on your favorite podcast app. If you want to pass along some information, you can email rollcall at 126@gmail.com. That's 126rollcall@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to Roll Call, a 126th Air Refueling Wing podcast focused on people, mission, and community. I'm Master Sergeant Brian Ellison.